I listened to every Age Factory album. Age Factory are a rock band founded in 2010 from Nara, Japan. They're known for their distinct style of sad and loud rock music, and they do not get nearly as much attention as I feel they deserve outside of Japan, because in my opinion, they're one of the coolest sounding bands in the entire country. Since their start, they've released 5 albums and 3 EPs, so let's talk about them. And let's start with their debut EP, 2014's Te wo Furu. The Age Factory on this album is in stark contrast to the Age Factory of today. Firstly, the songs on this EP are a lot longer. In fact, this 6-song EP is 4 minutes longer than their entire 2021 album Pure Blue, and that one has 10 songs. Also, this album takes a lot more influence from emo and math rock than their later work would. And yet, despite that, this is one of the best releases they've ever put out. That starts straight from the first song, which is also my favorite song on this thing. One thing Age Factory had going from them right from the start is their loud and emotionally punchy choruses. This track has a fantastic one. The melody is great, and it works really well over a simple but super effective drum beat. Those emo influences are also present here, with a bit of a Midwest emo guitar thing going on in the verses. This is a fantastic start to this band's discography. And speaking of loud, emotionally punchy choruses, there's the second and most popular song here, Roadshow. This is another song that makes excellent use of a loud, soft dynamic between the verses and chorus, and has another chorus that sounds hype and bittersweet at the same time. It works even better than the first song. And moving to the end, the last song on this thing is Green Green, which is also amazing. I am always a sucker for like loud group vocals in rock music, and there's a part of this closer that has that, and let me tell you, I absolutely love it. The math rock and emo influences are also pretty strong on this track in ways that we won't see too much later. That makes this already great song stand out even more in the context of the rest of their discography. This is fairly different to most things Age Factory would release later, but it doesn't make it any less good. In fact, I prefer this to a lot of their later material. Age Factory isn't the most consistent band in the world, but every song on here is great. This band came out of the gates running. Unfortunately, they would quickly stumble. So next we come to the album Teenage, which I think was a limited edition release thing. I've tried to find it online to listen to it, and I can't, so we're just gonna move past it onto their other 2015 release, the EP NOHARA, which is easily the worst thing they have ever put out. Like, it's just not good. I don't know how they went this far backwards in 9 months. The first song is Ginger, which is 2 minutes of them trying to do a post-hardcore math rock thing. It doesn't work at all. The title track is after that, and it's another math rock type song. It's also trying to do a similar thing, and it also doesn't work. The vocals are just straight up terrible. Like, it's not fun. Luckily, there's still one good song on this EP, and that is track 4, Autumn Beach. It would still be the worst song on Te wo Furu, but it's at least enjoyable. They get a girl singer, and they do a duet thing, and it sounds really good here, but it's not really utilized enough. I want more of that kind of sound. And on the whole, this song is good, but it's nothing special. This whole EP is just super weak, and I don't like it. And that brings me to their first actual album, Love, which is also not very good. It's for sure more refined than NOHARA, but there's not really any standout tracks here. Age Factory doesn't sound special in any way. They sound like generic disposable rock band number 7000. I guess if I had to pick one song I like, it would be track 7, Tours. The drums on this track are pretty good, and they give it some much needed punch. It's also got a lot of energy. Both punch and energy are things that this album tries to have, it just struggles to actually pull them off. There's also some cool girl singing on this one, like on Autumn Beach from NOHARA, and it's really good again. It's definitely the best song here, and it's the only one I enjoyed actually coming back to. Unfortunately, that song is sandwiched in between the 2 worst songs on the record. I don't know what they're trying to do on Puke, but it's not working. Between the awful vocals and the incredibly awkward verses, this song just sounds terrible. Veranda is also bad because it's a 3-minute tape recorder acoustic guitar song. I can't get anything from the vocals here because I don't speak Japanese, but his voice is probably too rough to be doing something like this. And the guitar playing isn't really interesting either. It's bad. So yeah, after a great debut, that's 2 straight misses for Age Factory. Unlike on their debut EP, their debut album doesn't leave you feeling excited for the band. Age Factory doesn't sound like they have anything to prove on this record. Luckily, That will change very quickly with our next two releases, starting with their 2017 EP River, which is a lot better. It's not as consistently great as their first EP, but unlike their last two, there is a lot to like here. The title track is a highlight as it shows what Age Factory does best. It's got fun, catchy choruses, an infectious energy, and is super re-listenable. It's also still got an emo-inspired sound, but it's more in line with the bittersweet rock they would do later. The last two tracks here are also really good. Left in March is pretty similar in composition. It's another energetic, fun, and bittersweet rock song. It's pretty much Age Factory's bread and butter. The last song, Sunday, is also similar, but it makes more use of quiet parts, and it expands Age Factory's songwriting a little. It brings the girl background singer back, adds in some horns and acoustic guitar, and generally sounds like a better and more polished version of a lot of the songs on this EP. This isn't Age Factory's best or most complex work, but it is definitely good, and it's a step back in the right direction after Love and NOHARA. Age Factory has figured out their core strengths and is focusing in on those, and it's really working to their favor. That brings us to 2018's Gold, where I think Age Factory has really figured it out. It takes the best parts of River and is able to expand on them across the course of a whole album. It still has some misses, but they're less frequent, and the highs on this album are better than on any of their other work. And this album gets off to a ridiculous start with two of the best songs in Age Factory's entire discography. The title track Gold is insane. This song gets you hooked in the first 10 seconds and just keeps going. The quick running guitars give this song a ridiculous amount of energy, and this is the best chorus Age Factory has ever done. They shove it twice into the first minute, and I don't even care because it's amazing. Normally that would hurt a song's long-term appeal, but I've listened to this so many times and it's still awesome. This song is fantastic. It's also probably the best intro to the band if you just want one song. The second track, See You in My Dream, is more complex, with songwriting focused less on a cool-ass hook and more on spreading that goodness out across 4 minutes. And that's not to say the chorus isn't amazing here, because it is, but there's so much more to this. The guitar riff is fantastic and it's the perfect kind of melancholy. There's also some sadder sounding backing vocals that complement the incredibly mournful singing on this track. The Age Factory singer has a very distinctive voice, and this song makes the best use of it out of any song they've ever done. There's also a breakdown towards the end of the song that speeds the song up to a frantic pace, and it's just the icing on the cake. This song is so cool. It's my favorite Age Factory song. It's honestly one of the best jrock songs I've ever heard, and it's the main thing that inspired me to make this video. The songwriting here is fantastic, and somehow they executed even better. Now, the rest of the album isn't as spectacular as these first two tracks, but there's still plenty of good stuff. Like track 6, Mooney. Unlike those first two songs where Age Factory is going all out 100% of the time, this one has more room for building up and slower verses, yet it still maintains an incredibly hooky chorus. This song isn't quite as energetic as the first two, but it's plenty fun enough for repeated listens. Unfortunately, this album does stumble a bit as you get towards the end. My Green Friend and Kicks Night are both pretty uninspired indie rock songs. There's not even too much of an Age Factory spin on it, they're just boring and kinda generic. They also really disrupt the flow of this album. It would definitely be better if they just weren't there. Luckily, the last song, Tonbo, is good. It's more similar to something like See You in My Dream, so it's a solid ending to a pretty good album, all things considered. Gold is the first time I think Age Factory is really coming into their own. Their first EP was good, but it also sounded really different. After that, it was just kinda iffy, but on River and especially Gold, they figured out their strengths and how they can convert them into a cool and unique sound. And that continues, kind of, onto 2020's Every Night. This feels like a real midpoint between the lows of an album like Love and the highs of an album like Gold. It's got some hits, but it's also got some songs that just don't. For hits, there's the opening track, Dance All Night My Friends, a simple and catchy alt-rock song that's mostly reliant on a good riff and a cool melody. The songwriting's nothing to write home about, but Age Factory executes well here, and it's pretty fun. That's actually kind of a problem with this album. The songwriting feels a little lazier. Like, the compositions aren't as complex, and while the performances are still good, it doesn't feel as aspirational as Gold did. That's apparent on a track like Kill Me, which harkens more back to NOHARA, if anything, with its random spurt of hardcore. The gist of this song is quiet, grungy verses, loud hardcore with a super repetitive chorus, repeat 3 times until the song is complete. It's not very good. Luckily, just like River and Gold, this album ends on a high note. Nothing Anymore is a super emotional track built around a shouty, cathartic climax. The instrumental is a lot quieter than most other songs here, and yet despite that, the last minute of this half has more energy and punch than anything else on this album. It's almost like they're better when it sounds like they're trying with the songwriting. Every Night is fine, I guess. It's more of what Age Factory is good at, it just doesn't feel applied very well. A lot of songs here are kind of simple or lazy or just generally kind of fine. There's not really anything bad on this album, but nothing outside of the first or last track is going to stick with you in any real way. I'm only going to really recommend this one if you're already a fan of the band and you want more. They did turn it around though on 2021's Pure Blue. One thing you're going to notice is that this album is condensed. That was kind of the case on Every Night, which packed 10 songs into 29 minutes, but it's even more the case here as this album fits 10 songs into 25 minutes. The longest track here is only 3 minutes long, which is quite a departure from the days of Te wo Furu, where the shortest track was 4.5 minutes long. Honestly though, this album might be better off for being that short. There's pretty much no filler on this thing. Every track hits, which is remarkable from a band that has a track record of being a little inconsistent. Just like most of their albums, this thing starts on one of the best songs. This time it's Over. It's one of the most emotional and beautiful songs the band has ever made, hitting you with a completely unprecedented shoegaze wall in the chorus. That's something this band has never really tried before, and yet it's my favorite moment on the whole album. While a lot of Age Factory's prior music wants to pump you up and hit you with energy, Over almost feels too sad for that. They sound tired, but in a good way this time. And that continues on tracks 3 and 4, Say No More and Feel Like Shit Today. Say No More keeps that newfound shoegaze being carried by a loud reverberated guitar and a drawn out melody that kinda leaves a haze over the instrumental. It's maybe a little too simple in composition, but when the chorus is this good, I see why they just want to repeat it over and over again. And Feel Like Shit Today sounds exactly what you'd expect an alt-rock song titled Feel Like Shit Today to sound like. Age Factory's singer sounds great all over this album, but this is the best track for his voice. It keeps the washy reverb in the chorus from Say No More, but it's able to expand on it. It throws in some quieter verses, and it shoves the percussion way up in the mix. This feels almost like a more emotional and more complex version of that track. It takes what made it work and improves on it in every way. And there's another surprise here. In addition to fiddling with shoegaze, tracks 6 and 7 show Age Factory getting into rap rock, of all things. Track 6 brings rapper Jubi into the fold, who we'll hear more from later, for a loud, thrashy hardcore song. It's pretty simple, but it's fun enough that it works. My only real problem is that it doesn't really fit on the track list of this album at all. There's also Light Off, which features rapper Jesse, which is the exact opposite. Here, Jesse handles some verses over a much more atmospheric and subdued instrumental. This puts a lot of focus on the vocals, and they're pretty good. They keep you hooked with some good flows and a pretty solid melody. The instrumental also works pretty well as a beat, so it's a good execution of a completely new sound for the band. Pure Blue shows Age Factory focusing in on what they're good at while also expanding on their sound in a lot of cool ways. They keep the catchy melodies and the emotional singing, but are able to incorporate sadder songs, slower songs, shoegaze, and even rapping, all in a cohesive manner, and they do this all in under half an hour. This makes for a really unique experience, not just in the Age Factory discography, but in Japanese rock music as a whole. Age Factory is really just continuing to evolve and break new ground and keep going up. And speaking of doing that, the last album for today is 2022's AFJB. This was released under the name AFJB and is a collab with rapper Jubi, who was just on Pure Blue. That was a sadder album overall, focused more on atmosphere and having a consistent track list. AFJB feels like all the crazy shit that was too much fun to put on Pure Blue. Age Factory learned from their experimentation on that record and put it to good use on some completely wild tracks. This is different straight from the beginning. You press play on this album and are immediately treated to a 90s hip-hop beat and some techno synths on the opener Da Bomb. Age Factory has pretty much never used electronics in the past, and they just immediately throw them on you here. They want to make sure you know this is not a normal Age Factory album. That continues into Dengeki, which brings in rapper KZM to do some nu metal throwback stuff, as everyone trades verses over a start and stop riff. It's wild, but it's good. That 90s influence continues further into the title track AFJB, which has a chorus I can only describe as awesome. Age Factory is fully committed to just having fun on this thing, as evidenced by the chanting of Go Off Jubi and the breakdown of AF motherfucking JB, Are You Ready? This is one of the most dumb fun songs I've heard in forever. And that just keeps going into the next track, Bad Morning, which has a fantastic chorus melody that's backed by a sample of the generic iPhone alarm sound. This is like a 90s skateboard TV show intro. It's great. And despite all this chaos and fun, Age Factory is still able to show restraint. Track 8, Rainbow, is probably the most normal track on the record. It's a pretty laid-back jrock song propelled by a great chorus, but it still mixes in some unique touches with the rapping. The ending breakdown is also super cool. Just because Age Factory slows it down here doesn't mean it's any less enjoyable. The penultimate track, Hanabi, is also really good. The first 2 minutes of this track have that effect where they sound like they're being played on a distant speaker, and when the track does the drop out of that, it hits so good. The melodies are once again incredible here, and the sleepy, pure blue type riff is a great compliment to the wistful vocals. AFJB is the sound of a band who always wants to push forwards. A lot of J-rock bands get good and then just kind of stagnate, and that's fine if you have a good sound, but they don't really ever push that sound forwards. Age Factory is not one of those bands. Throughout their discography, they are constantly shifting, always finding new angles and sounds, while still making room for great J-rock melodies and tons of emotion. They sound free on this album to make whatever they want, and it's so much better for it. AFJB is one of the most fun J-rock albums I've ever heard, and is definitely worth a listen. Age Factory is just gonna keep evolving, and I'm really excited to see where they're able to go next. Thank you for watching. I know I said the next one of these would be on Asian Kung Fu generation. I'm still working on that one. It's gonna be really long. Bear with me. Please suggest artists you want me to do videos like this on in the comments. Like if you enjoyed. Subscribe as well. Check out Age Factory because they're really cool and I want more people to get into them because I like them. Thank you again so much for watching. Bye.